And you guys have heard him referenced by other people, Curtis, when Curtis was speaking with us, and you've heard Francisco, obviously, a ton talk about Andy Jeanty and his mentor. All of you have heard about Angel Wings and raising money for Angel Wings. This is the vice president of Angel Wings, and who him and a couple other buddies said, let's build this clinic, sitting in front of you right now. So you guys are in front of one of the best vector reps in company history, over 4 million in sales. Also one of my best friends of my whole life, really like a brother to me, that I actually met in Cutco, and we became great friends selling our first summer together. The next summer we both ran branches and competed. The next year we were out and we were deciding what to do, and he went, selling Cutco, and I went out as a district manager. And Andy and I hit our milestones. We won our Rolexes. Like we've had a really awesome, track these last 2 decades of really growing in the business together. And it's been amazing to see what he's created and just the influence he's had in our organization. I don't know that my team would have all the accolades it does and all the championships if it does, if it wasn't for his influence, his belief in me always, and his influence in our organization. So I'm so excited to have you, Andy. I'm going to stop talking since we have you for a limited time and hand it over to you. But thank you for taking time to talk to our guys as we're going into we're in our 4th quarter right now, finishing this push off.
All right, thanks for the introduction. Everything you said is true. We've been, like family for a very long time. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Love you. And also, I know you mentioned Angel Wings, and I wanted to say I know there are people on this call that have encouraged or supported, have done whatever they could to be part of that big mission that we have. So I just want to say, thank you. So I am very excited to talk to you about this. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, is selling big. And, I know Kathy referenced how tired and pooped. And it's interesting because a week ago, this was like that last 4 days of my push, and I felt the same way. Today, I'm refreshed. So all I gotta tell you guys, it's worth it to get to the finish line, because you can feel like this in 5 days. So I'm giving you that energy. I'm trying to spread that energy to you guys, and hopefully I can bring you some fire to make it very exciting for the last 4 days that you have. So let's talk about selling big. So, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is to kind of talk to you guys about it as a concept, so you can understand the biggest thing that's really going to have the impact on you selling bigger. And it's really about the way you approach things. It's going to be about your choice. So I wrote down, there's 3 things that are going to matter. It's your belief, and it's going to be logic and emotions. And it's going to be about putting all of that together when you're interacting with your customers, and see how it completely transforms your average order. Like allowing yourself to have that possibility. It comes with it starts with you though. It's your choice. So one thing, whenever I addressed a group, especially during a push, I love to remind them of that, because honestly, I've benefited from reps, having that approach with their customers, but I'd rather that you do better. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about when you are talking to, especially to a new customer, a new Cutco owner, you're doing a demo for them, right? Of course, it's important with service calls, but a lot of times new reps have this idea that if they tell the customers, hey, I'm just checking this out, or, I don't know what's going to happen. People don't care about that. They're not inspired about that. You're automatically going to sell at least half of what you could have sold. Like, that's just a reality. So I wanted to start there with you guys, that you focus on the energy of the things that you love about being here, like the product and the people. And that's a better thing to show your customers than playing it safe. When you play safe, you're not playing for the big results. You're just playing to go by. And that's, you're not allowing yourself to even see what you can do. And so the choice is let's talk about the positive things that you love about selling Cutco. Your clients, if they see that you believe in what you're showing them this product, they're going to believe too. And they're going to believe why they should buy it, right? That's really important. I'll tell you, I did my stats before to do the call. And so I sold 5 ultimates, 6 signature sets, and 12 upgrades to a full ultimate sets and a bunch of partial ultimate upgrades too, and 7 business gift orders. The reason I referenced that, and I didn't even track my flatware and cookware sets, but I had a couple of each of those too. So all those things help you have a higher average order, and you got to focus on that. How do you keep asking for that bigger order? That's the biggest thing, is daring to ask for it, not letting the customer's energy dictate where you go with your closing or the way you drop down. It's asking for more and then seeing them say yes and be like, oh, what if I didn't ask for that big of an order? That's what would happen. So keep asking the bigger number. Let's talk about logic and emotion. Why is logic and emotion important? Well, this is 2 of the most important ways that people make their decisions, right? The way they think about it, the way they feel about it. So when you are with a customer, you don't know who is much more attached to the emotion of how it feels, how it looks, versus the person that like wants to know about the functionality and the longevity. Like, people have different things that matter to them. So you can't skip things when you're working with a customer, because you don't know what's going to matter to them, right? And at some point you see them nodding, you're like, oh, that's a good point. Let me like emphasize on that so they can really sell themselves, really paying attention. The truth of the matter is the product sells itself. So the reality is, all you have to do is entertain the customer, have fun, educate them, and ask them for the order. Like, that's really what it comes down to. So what are some of the things about logic that I want you to think about that you don't want to skip? Facts about the products, like the double D, and the fact that we've been made in America for 72 years, and we've been on Modern Marvels and made in America, like all those things that outside of us we've been recognized for. And of course, the double D edge, the straight edge, and the handle, and like all those things, you can't skip them. If you are like me, you're doing mostly virtual stuff. I mean, I sold more virtually than I've ever sold in the house. So like, it doesn't matter where you are, the product is impressive, right? So one of the things, of course, is the guarantee. Are you nailing that guarantee is very important. If you're going sometimes in the home, are you doing the demonstration where the people are wowed, right? Asking yourself that question. Even here, when I cut the penny virtually, I mean, it's awesome. It's still impressive. So it really does not matter where you are doing the demonstration. Emotion, some of the stuff like the social proof, their family, their friends that may have referred you to you, like dropping down all those names. And of course, the fact that we're USA made is kind of like a big deal right now. Also rapport, having them like you, right? That's going to be important. That's going to make them feel open to actually buy the product. So I'm going to turn into like, some of the things you can do to set yourself for ultimate and signature sets, right? Because that's like the first route to success. But one thing I'm going to say, don't be so attached to selling sets that when you could make a wish list with a customer that's just as big as $1,000 or $2,000. That happens all the time, where I sell them a bunch of stuff. They didn't buy any knives, but I sold them the barbecue set, the garden tool set, the bacon serve set, the kitchen tool set. It's kind of crazy, but don't be afraid to ask, right? So you're going to hear me say that a lot. Ask, 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 ask. Just dare to ask. So number 1, right? Planting seeds. Because it's very important. You can't wait for the end. You think you're going to have that magic phrase that's going to make them want to buy the ultimate or the signature. No, like you're selling an ultimate or signature from the beginning of your contact with the customer. Like, they are paying close attention to every movement that you make. So don't forget that. So how do I plant some seeds? I plant some seeds for something bigger. And that's the real big idea behind my type of selling, is because I want people to think really big. And I know that the higher that I close, the higher that I will land, right? So I just have fun with it. I mean, there's some people, like when you're in contact with them, they give you the energy or the surrounding, or you're tempted to judge them, even though you have to fight that. but you tended to judge them. So you decide, I'm not going to tell them about everything. Let me see if I can sell him a knife. No, that is not the approach. You never know. Like, people surprise you. So you need to do your job and give them the best of the best and increase their expectation. So the way I start pretty much every time I'm going into demonstration mode, like without fail, hey, Mr. Jones, we have a variety of products. Most people end up having what we call a Cutco kitchen. Some people just buy it all at once because it hurts a little bit because it's a lot more, but it's also the best value. But some people, because it's like an investment, right? But sometimes people start with a combination. Maybe they'll get so backtrack. After I say that, I'm like, so we have pots and pans, we have flatware, we have cookware, we have gadgets and accessories. Like, you could actually have your entire kitchen with a Cutco kitchen forever guaranteed. But some people have to start with a combination. Maybe they'll get the knives and come cookware. Maybe they get the knives with the flatware. Or they start with the knives. And we also have like a couple different options. And the most amazing thing is that we also have an upgrade program. So if you have to start somewhere small, you can always upgrade in the future. So you're not just stuck in that small set. So you're planting seeds for just now and for later. And like, that's what you got to do when you want to sell big, right? So that's like my first thing. And then I go into showing them the sets. And that's a very important thing that I've always pushed a lot is don't go into pieces. So let me show you the first piece in that set. No, that's true. But before that, let me show you the 3 main sets. And you show them like, for me, I show them here. I'm like, so this is a basic set and this is a Mag Caddy. And then we have a little in between. So, like, that kind of like helps people frame in their mind that, okay, so I got options here. And it's okay to have that. I would love to just push the ultimate all the time, but I don't, there was a time in my career where I was either selling ultimates or nothing because I was not creating that freedom with the people. I got no problem closing them a homemaker and upselling them to a signature, or from a signature to upselling ultimate. In fact, three of my 5 ultimates were all closed as a signature and upgraded them to an ultimate. Like, close credit cards and everything and bring them back up. You got to be able to have that flexibility and not be afraid to ask again. So we'll come back to that. So sets, right? Put that in their mind. So as you show them pieces, wherever it's in person or virtually, they have that in the back of their head. Okay, there are 3 sets. All right, let me pay attention. You want to see that in their face. Number 2, education and using the words expensive. It's okay. You want to build that value. You got to take pride in the fact that you sell a high-end product. Like, I would not want to sell a cheap product. So I have no problem that it's expensive, right? So it's very expensive, Mr. Jones. We went above and beyond because of the quality of the steel. We wanted to give the best product for your kitchen. We wanted to really impact the lives of people when they're like cutting in their kitchen. So we had this double D-edge that lasts a lot longer. So I try to frame certain things before I say the facts too. And so the way, in my mind, what it works is that it creates that emotion and the logic at the same time. So creating a little bit of a story and then giving them the facts. So what that does, again, it reaches out to different touches. So names and uses. I wrote down with this is like, every knife that you know how to sell, it's like, think about it as like a $sign for you. Like, literally, if you want to make more money, like, it's a $sign when you know what it does. So you should know what everything does. That's like such an easy things to change. You spend 2 hours, there's 500 million things on Vector Connect to find information. Obviously, I know managers talk about them all the time, but sometimes you need to spend that time on your own to absorb that information. Get on there, know what every knife does, and don't overlap uses either. Because when you're doing that, they're like, oh, well, if I have this knife, then why do I need that knife? Like, you don't, and that the reality is every knife does have a purpose, and there's a purpose for every knife. So, and it's your job to do that. And so one of the things that I like to do is is actually sometimes sell people off of things. And so that's one of them. That's like such a very big thing, because sometimes I recognize that there's certain things that they're not going to use throughout the appointment. And not if it's in the set though, you got to stay away from that. Like just leave that alone. But if there's other things that you can see, you tell them, hey, I don't think you're gonna need that. Yeah, I don't think you need the kitchen tools. Like that can happen at any time, but it helps people understand that you're not there to sell them everything. And I tell my customers, I'm like, hey, I want you to buy everything, but I don't think you're gonna use that. Maybe not now, maybe a different time. So like try to come from that place of also helping your customers. That's very important. Paying attention to their reaction. If your customers are nodding, like on a use, keep going. Stop trying to sell them more, right? You need to save your energy for the places where they're like, they look a little confused or something like that. Reading your customer is almost more important than you knowing what you're gonna say next, because that is whatever you're gonna do next depends on that, not as much as your typical approach. Just make sure that you're reading your customers and creating the stories behind different pieces that you can tell they're like, So, like for example, like one of the things I love about the butcher knife, and I'll talk about that because I know it's a harder piece for people to sell. Like Mr. Jones, that's one of the most traditional knives in the kitchen. And I show them that like, this is what the power of the knife is. So it's not like your chef's knife where you do this way. It's more like for you to cut like that, whether it's your raw meats or your butcher knife. You got to kill that thing of them seeing the French chef as that only big knife that they're going to use. And that's why they're going to get a galley or something smaller. You want to be able to create that and have those key knives that are going to sell you that homemaker, that's going to sell you that signature. Because the signature is really a very easy set to sell, right? The ultimate is usually like the hardest, but let me help you with some of the ultimate stuff. One of the things that I love is paying attention to the way they're reacting while I'm showing them the homemaker pieces. And that's going to determine which knife I'm going to push very hard on the ultimate. So if they're more like vegetables, vegetarian or vegan, or I'm going to talk a lot about that santoku and that vegetable knife. And I show them, whether it's, again, virtual, whatever, but you got to push those knives, right? Like, I know you love to cut your vegetables. You're going to love these 2 extra knives that you get for vegetables. And the 4-inch paring knife. It's a longer version of the paring knife. The people who love meat, well, you're going to push that cleaver, right? The boning knife and the salmon knife. And then a key important thing that you want to mention more than once throughout the appointment is that Mrs. Jones, especially when they're like, well, that's a lot of knives. I'm like, well, honestly, I'm going to tell you, if there's like 3 or 4 pieces that you think you would never use in the complete set, it's still worth it to get the complete set because of the value. That's really important. And that's true. If you add the numbers, you'll see, right? If there's 2 or 3, and sometimes 4, if the cleaver is not included, and never take out, it's still better. It's still better to have everything together, the 12 steak knives and all of the extra pieces, right? So that makes people think a little bit differently. Is it going to change everybody's mind? No, but is it going to change a lot of people's minds? Yes, and that's what you need. You need to take control of what you have control over, right? The fact that if you say all of that, it's going to help you with the people that it will help. Forget about the other ones. So the reason I share this with you is like, you may go and like try this really hard after this, and then the first person doesn't really care about it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it though, because it's really 50% of the time that it works. But you'll miss that shot if you never take it, right? So just make sure that you are always doing the things that can help you. Okay, so of course, we always talk about relating to other brands and the Henkels and the Wusthof and the Schön, and not putting them down, but building Cutco up. That's one of the things that we at CSP, we talk a lot about. We don't try to crap on people's knives. We more try to build up our knives instead above it. But if you are going to make certain comments like wood and all that stuff, try to make it before you know what they have. Always try to get that, because then it's not a direct attack, right? Very important about those little details. You want customers to feel good at all times. Enthusiasm, like the build up. The third party endorsements that you can have, those things are really important, like stories about your customers. Also, if your customer just bought like 3 or 4 knives and they referred you to the customer or another customer, you're in front of them, you want them to buy a set, they probably are in a better situation maybe to buy the set. You may not tell them exactly what the other person says, but of course you can tell, hey, she's excited about her Cutco. Those are little things that sometimes people don't understand make a big difference. It makes a big difference. So just make sure that you're using whatever is going to help you again. In reality is what I'm trying to tell you is that you want to be confident, right? And so that's an easy thing to say when you've had a lot of experience in something and you develop that confidence. Well, guess what? When you think about it that way, that's exactly why you should keep seeing people, keep practicing, keep asking, keep daring, because that's when you develop your confidence. But sometimes you just have to be daring. Like you just have to dare first to kind of have that growth in your life in general, right? So asking for it every time, regardless of the energy that the person gives you, regardless of if, you know, they even tell you that I'll never use that much. I mean, I had so many people that thought I would never use that. I would never, and then later on, I still close them on it. I mean, it's beautiful, but why? Because I chose to ask them anyway, right? So at the end, you choose to ask them anyway. Couple other things that are very important to sell really big. You gotta love and promote those gadgets like they were gold. Like, because at the end, it's gonna be your offering. That's how you're gonna close a lot of those orders. But they need to fall in love with those gadgets. So then when you offer them as a free thing, they're like, oh. Like that's what you want to create. Like one of my ultimates, I closed them on a signature. And I knew like I had to go through that process. And you have to go through that process with most people. I went through the appointment, I went to the signature, I closed the signature, I've given them a discount on it. And then I was like, all right, I have a $150 discount now. I need to recuperate that. So I went hard on the gadgets and I sold them 3 of them, which now brought my signature set to full price. And I was able to give them the gadgets for free. So I share that with you for 2 reasons. One, it helped me now, instead of giving a discount to the signature, I was able to charge full price and give the 3 gadgets for free. But it got better because what happened is that in their mind, they knew that they bought the signature and they also bought 3 accessories, right? So in the end, we're just talking about the relationship and like in the future, we'll keep in touch. And then, you know, maybe they'll upgrade and I'm just kind of like having fun with it. And she's like, yeah, maybe one day you'll convince me to get that cleaver. And I was like, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Like, you're in trouble now. So I literally just stopped there and I was like, I have an idea. They're like, what's your idea? I'm like, and I love doing that. I take a deep breath and I'm like, you know what? If you buy the ultimate, I'll give you all the gadgets for free. And they looked at each other. And he was like, let's do it. I mean, that would have never happened if I just didn't ask, right? Like automatically 800 more CPO in like 3 seconds. So just think about how much you have to keep asking every single time. And then the last point on this is sharing your goals. And I know you're probably tired of hearing that during the push, but I'll tell you, it is probably the most powerful thing that you have right now is sharing goals. Because the truth is, people always need a reason to buy now. And sharing your goals give them that reason. It adds up to the energy, the emotional part for them to be part of what you're trying to do. And it just gives them that extra reason that sometimes they need. So whatever it is, use the fact that there's 4 days left to the biggest sales competition you've ever experienced in your life. Like talk to them about that. And, you know, just come from a place of positive, tell them that you've worked the hardest you've probably ever worked your entire life. You've woken up at this time and going to bed at that time. And, you know, you're X amount away from your goals. And one of the things I tell people, I'm like, hey, I'm $10,000 away from my goal. If you see something you like for $10,000 worth, don't hesitate. I won't stop you. I promise. And I just love creating that fun energy with them. And then boom. they're paying more attention all of a sudden and they're laughing, right? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. But whatever you want, like, don't hesitate and I'm going to make it worth your while, right? And so you're planting those seeds throughout the whole thing. So I have 3 more things that I wanted to say. If you're seeing people that are Cutco owners, make sure you ask like for an upgrade, that permission. So permission is one of the most powerful word in sales, interestingly enough, especially when you don't have the rapport with people. And I love being able to ask people, like when I'm seeing with them and they have Cutco, I'm like, Mrs. Jones, I know you have Cutco and I know you've enjoyed it. Do you mind if I show you like the best specials that we're having right now? And usually it's my upgrade. So and people always say, yeah, but it just puts a guard down versus coming like, all right, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you that. Are you ready? So it's coming from that place of asking them, and then you just, they calm down, the wall goes down. So you want to make sure that you're asking for that permission, and that works in a lot of different things, but I wanted to bring it up to you for upgrades because it really helps. And of course, hopefully all you guys know about the concept of the upgrade, they get credit for whatever they already have. You send them the block and the rest of the pieces. So one thing that I would say about that is the most important thing, right, is that you tell them, hey, Mrs. Jones, you tell them about like 3 different ways. So I'll tell them what the upgrade is, I'll tell them how it works, and then I tell them again. And the reason is because sometimes people are confused, and a confused mind says no. So make sure you tell them, hey, Mrs. Jones, so the upgrade, what we do, we give you credit for everything that you have towards the upgrade, towards the complete set. So in the end, you'll have the complete set, and part of it will be your pieces and part of it will be the rest of the pieces. So you don't have to duplicate it. We literally upgrade you into the block. Like I literally just say like 3 different ways just so they can get it. And I sell upgrades like it was my job, as you guys can see. Yeah, I think so. One last thing is the comparison when you're doing an upgrade is make sure that you compare certain knives that they have to the upgrade, right? So if they have a French chef, you show them how awesome it is to have the Petit Sentoku, because it is for vegetables, but it's a lot smaller. You have more control over it. All of those little things that you can do that are paralleled, because if you don't address those things, you're gonna have people that are gonna shut down because they're automatically thinking, well, I've done fine with what I have. So you gotta be prepared to always like compare the knives that they have and see how it gives them a lot more flexibility or leverage, or just more comfort level. So I hope that helps you guys a ton to sell a lot, to sell big, and remember to just ask, keep asking. One thing, oh, that's a tough one. It feels like there's so many things. Honestly, I just wish that I wish that I understood the opportunity that I had. I think that's the biggest thing, because when you understand the opportunity that you have, you really go full force. Instead of wasting your mind and your time on thinking and doubting, you just go into full swing mode and you invest in your business, you invest in your knowledge, and then it just kind of grows like in front of your eyes, and you're like, what happened? And I think that would be the thing. I wish I understood and believed the opportunity I had when I was under 100 grand, because I would have been like even more resourceful and reaching out to people and learning and wanting to grow instead of retracting and being scared, coming from a place of fear. I think it would be that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
It does. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Jeanty.